You know, in the long history of warfare, there are some names that just become legendary. These are the people who represent the absolute peak of skill, of courage, and today we're diving into the story of one of the greatest, Carlos Hathcock, also known as the White Feather.
So let me just ask you something. Does that sound real? Shooting another sniper through their own scope. I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a Hollywood movie, right? A one-in-a-million shot that just seems physically impossible. But what if I told you it actually happened? Let's get into the story behind this unbelievable moment.
Okay, so picture this. It's 1967. We're deep in the jungles of Vietnam. There's an expert North Vietnamese sniper out there, known only as the Cobra. And he's got one single mission: to hunt and kill a very specific American marksman who's become a huge problem for his army.
But then, in this crazy reversal, the hunter becomes the hunted. The American sniper starts stalking his rival for days, and then he sees it, a sudden flash of light way off in the distance. Now, it could have been anything, right? A piece of glass, a canteen, but his gut, his instinct screamed that it was the sun glinting off the enemy's scope. He had maybe a split second to make a decision. He took the shot. A single bullet flies hundreds of yards, goes straight through the tiny opening of the Cobra scope, and kills him instantly. The duel was over, just like that. I mean, this shot is so legendary, it's been copied in movies and even scientifically tested on shows like Mythbusters, who, by the way, found that it was totally plausible.
And the man who made that impossible shot, that was Marine Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Hathcock. So now that you've seen what this man could do, let's find out exactly who he was.
So, how does someone even develop that kind of, well, almost superhuman skill? It definitely doesn't happen overnight. His story starts way, way before the jungles of Vietnam.
Hathcock's journey really began in the woods of Arkansas. And he wasn't just, playing around with a rifle. He was hunting out of pure necessity, learning to shoot with an old .22 to help put food on the table for his family. He joined the Marines on his 17th birthday. And get this, by 1965, he had already won the Wimbledon Cup, which is pretty much the most prestigious long-range shooting competition in the country. The raw talent was clearly there from the very beginning. And it was in Vietnam that all that skill, discipline, and courage would come together to forge a legend, one that was feared by his enemies and absolutely revered by his fellow Marines.
So you see this number, 93. That's his official number of confirmed kills. But here's what's so important to understand about that number. To get a confirmed kill, it had to be witnessed by a third party, usually an officer. For a sniper operating alone, deep in enemy territory, well, you can imagine how rare that was. His actual number is estimated to be well over 300.
Oh, his enemies knew him, all right. They called him Lung Chung, which means white feather. Why? Because of the signature white feather he always wore in his hatband. He became so feared, so effective, that the North Vietnamese Army actually put a bounty on his head. And in this incredible act of solidarity, many of his fellow Marines started wearing white feathers in their own hats, trying to confuse enemy snipers and draw fire away from the real deal.
This quote from Hathcock himself, it's just so revealing. It shows you the clear line he drew in his own mind. He loved the sport of hunting, but the act of killing was different. For him, it wasn't about bloodlust. It was about his duty to protect his fellow Marines. He saw himself as a guardian, not an executioner. And if you want to understand his discipline, just listen to this. On one solo mission to take out a high-ranking general, he crawled, inch by painful inch, for 4 days and 3 nights, covering over 1,500 yards of open terrain. He went without sleep, had enemy patrols walk just feet away from him, and even came face-to-face with a venomous viper. But he never moved. He never gave himself away. And after all of that, he made the perfect shot. But Hathcock's legend isn't just about his skill with a rifle. It's also about his incredible courage, which was tested not in a sniper's hide, but in a wall of fire. In September of 1969, his career as a sniper came to a sudden, violent end. The amphibious vehicle he was riding in hit a massive anti-tank mine. The explosion was huge, and the vehicle was instantly engulfed in a raging inferno. Now, Hathcock was thrown clear, but he was already severely burned. Instead of running for safety, he turned around and ran back into the flames. Again and again, he went back into that inferno, pulling out 7 of his comrades, one by one, before he finally collapsed from his injuries.
For this act of just unbelievable heroism, saving 7 men at the cost of his own health, he was awarded the Silver Star, one of the nation's highest awards for valor in combat. Those third-degree burns ended his combat career for good. The pain was constant. Then, years later, he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. He was medically retired from the Marine Corps, just shy of the 20 years he wanted to serve. For a man who had dedicated his entire life to the Corps, it was just a devastating blow.
But Hathcock's story, it doesn't end with his retirement. Not even close. His influence on the military, and really on the entire art of marksmanship, is still felt to this day.
I mean, think about this. He helped establish the modern Marine Corps Scout Sniper School, passing his incredible knowledge to a new generation. He was the guy who first looked at a heavy 50 caliber machine gun and thought, hey, I can use that as a sniper weapon. Then he went and set a world record for the longest kill at 2,500 yards, a record that stood for 35 years. Today, you've got rifles, awards, and shooting ranges all named in his honor. That's a lasting impact.
He's said this a lot, and it really gets to the core of what drove him. For him, it was about the challenge, the discipline. He called it getting in the bubble, a state of just utter concentration. It was about mastering himself and his environment more than anything else.
And we'll end on this powerful thought. A friend once showed Hathcock this passage from Ernest Hemingway. Hathcock read it, copied it down, and kept it with him. All he said was, he got that right. It's a profound, maybe even unsettling thought, one that perhaps only those who have truly been there can understand. And it kind of leaves us with a final question. What does it take, and what does it ultimately cost to become a legend?